Okay, with all of the crud that's been going on, first I want to answer Lee, or Girk. You know, I have always loved you and supported you. But let me tell you something that you did that hurt me enormously. I mean, really hurt me. It hurt me really in a way worse than what was going on between Bruce and George back in those days. George never victimized me. I don't know where you come up with that idea that he victimized me. Yes, I was crying and upset. I was crying and upset, one, when George did threaten to kill himself, which was the most stupidest thing that he could have ever did. But you know, sometimes when people get seemingly to the end of the rope, they'll open their big fat mouth up and say something they shouldn't say. But being that I myself tried to commit suicide, I never told anybody. I let it build up to the point that when the last straw seemed to come and break that day, and that spirit seemed to enter in to enforce me to do this, I didn't talk about it. I didn't say I'm going to go off and blow my brains out or anything. It just happened in a flash. So thank God it didn't happen to George that way. He was just upset. He was angry and hurt. And he said something that a lot of people have said. I'm just going to go out and kill myself. Not really meaning it. And I went off on him. You didn't know that, did you? Because it was in private. I was upset that two friends was going after each other in the most horrendous way. And they're still enemies now. What hurt me is how you handled it. You know, I don't curse. I don't. Even when I get really upset, the F word may slip out one time, and you can ask my husband. But the minute it's out of my mouth, it's like something slaps me in the mouth and says, "What are you doing? Get control of yourself, Barbara." It's like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm getting way out there. I'm getting into the flesh, and I'm not even acting like what God would want me to act. And that forces me to step back, and I apologize. I ask God forgiveness, and I ask that person's forgiveness right away. I don't want to carry that on my conscience of knowing that I've lost so much control that I'm just cursing and slinging crap out from one end to another, not acting at all like God. And now you said you did it for me? Lee, that hurts me. It really does hurt me, because I don't want you to ever put yourself in jeopardy with God because of me. No. Cursing is unacceptable to me. Maybe to everybody else in the world. Maybe to you. Maybe that's the only way you all can find a release. But it is not acceptable to me. This is how I feel. I'm not telling you how you should feel. I'm telling you how I feel about it. It is unacceptable. And I don't want you, Lee, or anyone else to get upset and so angry that you're slinging out curse words all over the place. And immediately I knew that it wasn't going to help. that it was going to drive a deeper wedge between Bruce and George, with everybody getting into it. It gave a lot of people pleasure to see that go on. Did you know that? They thought it was funny. Because at that one time when me and the other guy was going at it, and I told George to stay out of it. I did. I told him to stay out of it. And he backed off. And apologized that he even got into it. Because he was trying to clear the mess up. And then he went off on the other guy, telling him that he needed to stop it. Quit that kind of action. Which he had told him ahead of time. I know that for sure, because in some of the conversations when George is involved, he told him to knock it off. Quit saying crap like that on YouTube. But he didn't listen. And you know who I'm talking about. I don't want to even mention his name. He stood a sore spot on a lot of people's lives, because he's done a lot of damage to people, calling them names and going after them, and whatever reason he would do it. But Lee, you did hurt me. I never said this, but you did. And you may say, well, why ain't you PMing me? No. You did it publicly, so I'm telling you publicly, you hurt me. You really did. When you did that video and cursing Bruce and George out for fighting. Yeah, they were stupid. Yeah, I agree with you on that. They were stupid and immature and childlike. I don't know what happened way back then. George never told me. Even though Bruce may think he did, he never told me anything about Bruce. The only thing he ever said about Bruce, he always called him his friend. Until this thing come up. And that again, the other guy helped cause, because people don't know behind the scene that George was getting on to him. He was trying to do it in a way that would let the man back away and have honor in doing it. But needless to say, I think the guy's so stupid he is intelligent to understand that George was trying to give him a way out and just stop the nonsense. So, Lee, you can be mad at me. So everybody else is anyway, so who cares? You know, I've come to the point in my life, I really don't care anymore. If you're my friend, you're my friend, and you accept me as who I am. If you're not, then go away. But I never want you to defend me, Lee, in any way, shape, or form, in that kind of manner. If you can't speak it in a way of love and giving people honor, who is it?
Tina.
Okay, I gotta make this video, okay? And love and trying to get two brothers to come together and get over their stupidity. When you curse both of them out, it didn't help. It really did not help. It really caused the matter to get worse. And I know that you were, in a way, trying to defend my honor. And that's who you are, Lee. It is. That's who you are. You're a gentleman. A man that don't think other men should tread on women's rights or feelings and stuff. And I appreciate it. But you went about it the wrong way. And I'm sorry. Now, at the latter part of this video, I address this. So, Leah, I love you. And if I've hurt you, I hope you forgive me. I forgive you. I have a long time ago, because I still love you, even though you got ticked off at me. Oh well. Siblings do get mad at each other, and if you're a part of the body of Christ, we're siblings, okay? But I want to address this thing that about Elizabeth and Nicole. So I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone, okay? Because there was somebody that put below a comment on the video, do you all really believe that Elizabeth says? Well, it was Robin that said this. There's a few things I have to answer you, Ruby Robin. Yes, Nicole's real name is Paul. And he left his family. He was married and had children. And he took off and left them and went to Elizabeth when she was down here in Arkansas. Yes, he sure did. And he was an alcoholic, and maybe still an alcoholic at that time. When he walked into Elizabeth's life, okay, Chuck Wilson was already there with her at this time, because he was the webmaster, okay, and getting her web up and going, and he was down there staying with her. He left his wife in California and come to Arkansas, not too far from Eureka Springs. And Paul left Minnesota in an old beat-up pickup that had trouble along the way, and come down to where they were living here in Arkansas. Now, these are the words from his and her own mouth, and Chuck, because Chuck was there and seen it all happen. So you could say this is hearsay in a way, but being that it come from Paul, Nicole's own mouth, and Elizabeth's own mouth, then I believe them. But the first thing when he got there, he took her into the bedroom, pushed her down on the bed, and straddled her and held her down. Kicking and screaming, he held her down. And I asked Chuck, I said, why didn't you do something about it? Well, I didn't know what to do. Well, I know what I would have done. I would have probably took a club and knocked Nicky in the head and dragged him outside and had called the law. But being that Elizabeth at this time was running from the law for kidnapping her younger son, I guess maybe that's the reason why they couldn't do that. But anyway, he told her that God had sent him to teach her how to obey. And I thought that was kind of funny, but I didn't say anything at first. And then he began to tell, and she did too, between the two of them, tell how he felt he was led to rule her life and teach her obedience. He told her when to take a bath, how long she could take a bath, when she could go to bed, when she could get up, what to wear, how to, how to dress, how to put on her makeup, how to do her hair. He took over her life 100%, ruling her in every aspect of her life. Well, of course, when we got together up there in Sandy Point, Idaho, and after they told me this, which I looked at them both, I said, nah, that's not of God. And my husband would never try that with me. I said, fact, Elizabeth, if he had ever done me that way, I would have kicked him back out and sent him back home. Oh yeah, because I would have known that was not of God. So, I left it there because she told me to stay out of it, that she knew it was all God, and that she needed to be taught obedience. Okay. You're the one that wants it. I spent the rest of the time there with them watching. And she could not do nothing unless she asked his permission first. And if he said no, then she couldn't do it. If he said yes and gave her instructions on how to do it, she did it exactly the way he told her to do. He took over her life. He took over her ministry. He took it over. He's the one that changed the name of God around, because he said, God told me this is how you spell it. He was the one that changed Yeshua's spelling around, because he said that's what the Spirit told him. At first she was resistant to that, but then a Spirit told her that Paul was his servant, and she was to obey him. So you see, that evil spirit that had entered her was in cohorts with Paul, the man that left his children and his wife. And right now, they still have a warrant for him, or did have. Maybe after so many years it drops, I don't know. But anyway, they did have, and that's the reason why they were running so much. One of the reasons, only one. Because the law was still after her because of the youngest son. But he owes an exorbitant amount of child support. And that's why he was running. But you're right. Paul is the one that runs that ministry. And he's the one that takes over the money. Every time people send Elizabeth money, tithing, offerings, just gifts or whatever, he takes the money away from her immediately. She's not allowed to have the money. I've seen him pull out a wad of money that fit in his hand, when you roll money up and fit in his hand, of hundreds. Money. I mean, big money, buku money. Although the bank accounts was in her name and not his, because he would never allow his name to be attached to any of the bank accounts or any of the paper trail. Because as far as the paper trail of the money would always lead back to her. The bank accounts wasn't opened up in the ministry's name. They were always opened up in her name. I think that was a calculated thing that Paul chose to do, because if anything went down and anyone went to jail, all the paper trail led to her, and she's the one that would go to prison, not him. Even though he ran it, even though he handled all the money, she didn't get it, and he spent it the way he wanted it spent. He made all of the rules and the judgment about what went on in that ministry. I've seen it with my own eyes. But the reason why I go after her and rebuke her, I think she's under control of this evil, reprobate man that is truly demon-possessed, and in my mind I call him the son of Satan. But anyway, she needs to come out of it. Honestly, she needs to repent. She needs to get away from this man. She needs to get the demon in her cast out, so she can come back truly and live for Yeshua HaMashiach. Right now she's outside, and right now she doesn't belong to Yeshua HaMashiach anymore because of what this man does. He's taken over her life, and she's let him. She's honestly, I offered her, I got near her and I said, Elizabeth, I can get you away from him. I can help you. And I'll help you every step of the way to better your ministry. But you need to get away from this man. He's not good for you. He's evil. He's controlling you. He threatens you. And you're deathly afraid of him. I can see it within your eyes. Oh, no. And then you can tell that she's afraid when she's saying, no, I'm not afraid of him. I'm not. I mean, he's not doing anything bad. Well, I've worked with many abused women, and that's what they all say. You can see it. It's like a stigma on them. So, Robin, you're really right in that point. But what I like to see is Elizabeth repent and get out of this situation that she has let take over her life. If she don't, she's going to go down with this man, and she's going to drag every one of her group down with them. Now, you really can't help an abused woman until she comes to the part she's tired of being abused and wants to get out, because she will always go back. Well, one, he has all control of all the money. So, and she's becoming more and more of a Jezebel. More. That spirit that's in her is getting stronger and bigger. And that's why I rebuke her. Because she's becoming that evil Jezebel woman. Totally worshiping and obedience to Paul Nicole, doing exactly what he wants, when he wants it, and how he wants it. The evil is growing inside Elizabeth because of what he's doing, and she lets it happen. So you can't let her off the hook either. I mean, you can't. It's a self-will thing. So I hope this helps you out. I don't know how. I know that you're fighting against Nicole, Paul, because I guess maybe God did show you how the evil started in Elizabeth's life. Not that she didn't do evil before that, because what she did to Chuck and his wife and family was not acceptable either, because see, I know Chuck's wife, and she's a gentle, kind woman, never did any of the things that Elizabeth said she did. in fact one time, see, Chuck was up there too, and she was going on how evil Chuck's wife was and all that stuff. So after they went into the bedroom, went to bed and stuff, I looked at Chuck and I said, is your ex-wife, because see, I thought they were divorced, but at that time they were not divorced. He didn't tell me they were going through a divorce, but not totally divorced yet. And he said and said, no, she really was a good woman. And I said, why the divorce? Because she wouldn't come with me into, and I believe God was leading me here. Well, I just let the situation drop, you know. I'm going, wow, they're already divorced, you know, and no, she wasn't as bad as Elizabeth, because I know Elizabeth, I had come to know at that time, she could stretch the non-truth to the extent that she wanted to stretch it. And that was a lot of things that was opening my eyes, but I still loved Elizabeth because I saw that she was in an abusive situation, but at that point was not ready and willing to get out of it. So I still loved her and prayed for her. I still love her and I still pray for her, but at that point I was not willing to break from her, because I felt maybe there's something I can do to help her get out of this. Maybe if I just stayed her friend, I could help her get away from this man and get her life back in order with God. It finally broke when I come here and she just went off the wall and insisted that I would have to pray for these people on YouTube's death. I had already been convicted when her and I was together out there praying for our ex-husband's death, you know, Walter and my ex-husband Bill. And God really convicted me on that. I mean, really convicted me. So I knew I was not going to step back into that snare and start praying for other people's death. That was cursing them, and that is unacceptable with God. So wasn't going to do it, wasn't going there, and I told her so. That's when she turned her back on me and walked away. I never turned my back on her and walked away. I even begged her not to do that, but she did. And then I could see how possessed she was, and that this man brought it on. So later on I'll probably make a better video about this Sabbath day, because I'm sorry, people, but these are a couple of things I had to get off my chest. And Lee, if you listen to the end of this, I still love you. But please, please, don't ever have another temper tantrum and start cussing people out, especially over me. That hurts me. That hurts my heart. I don't want you to ever do that. Ever, 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 ever. I don't want anyone to ever do that. Do not curse people out because of me. I might be upset. I may be angry. I may be, just don't do it. Please don't do that. Ever, 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 ever again. If you care anything about me yet, if you care about me at all in the slightest bit of your heart, please don't ever do that again. I beg you. I beg you. Never, ever do that again. I love you, man. But please, never do that again.